become an engineer as a trade, let's say. I wasn't necessarily inspired to become an engineer because it's very hard to get a diploma in engineering. It's not easy at all. And there were a very tough 5 years, especially at first with all the mathematics and etc. But nevertheless, when I started, you haven't had a lot of options. It was like medicine or engineering or going to economics. And out of these three, I suppose I was more inclined, and it was easier for me to go to Polytechnica here in Bucharest. So I started a career in engineering, not necessarily because I had a huge attraction, but because it was easier for me to get into this university, and this is the truth. Although, as I said, the university itself is very hard, and I have a lot of questions right now. Why are not girls go to technical schools? And we have to encourage girls to go to technical schools. And it's true, we have to encourage them to go to technical schools. But you have to be a little bit on the technical side and to like mathematics and physics and this stuff where the reality is that boys are inclined to do this stuff. But nevertheless, nothing inspired me then apart than it was a path somehow suitable for me. I never think of quitting. When I'm starting something, if I started, I have to end it. So no, actually, I never think of quitting something when I started. And school, it wasn't an option at the end. No, when you start something, you are doing, and then I cannot understand people that are starting a school and they don't end it. Okay, I can understand you don't like it and to change it, but still, if you started and you put a lot of effort in going to that school, so no, the short answer is no. First of all, in university during the end years, I had a very good teacher in what was then, let's say, computers, and somehow inspired us, talking about inspiration, in going into this direction. So in the final years of university, I kind of figured out that I like computers. So it was in my mind. That's one thing. And then that is early 2000, end of 1990 something. I applied for a job in software distribution, AutoCAD, Autodesk. That's something related to engineering, and I thought it's very interesting to do that. And then I started not in programming, but in somehow support for complex programs in engineering. So I liked this part, and I learned a lot during that years, both in let's say commercial and business side of the IT part of computer software, contracts, so a lot of things that I haven't had learned in university. And with RAV, it was a very small ecosystem at that time. RAV antivirus, actually JCAD, was very important in this ecosystem. There were two antivirus made in Romania, Bitdefender and RAV antivirus, and we were neck to neck. They were neck to neck at that point. I wasn't working there. And JCAD was famous because a lot of students worked there as programmers, and it was a very good work environment, and everybody wanted to work there because of the work conditions. And as the students, for example, and I know that at this point doesn't sound very glamorous, but at that point they were giving a lunch, a hot lunch to everybody. So it was part of the salary, because everybody they were students, and the idea was you have to be healthy, so you have to do it, and a lot of other stuff. So the workplace, the work environment was very good. Everybody wanted to work there. So that was what attracted me and was very different from the other employers in the ecosystem. But I left to the UK for 1-2 years. I worked in marketing there, which was enlightening for me. At that time was a difference from, I don't know, 3 steps from what was here, at least 3 steps. But Radu asked me to please come back to Romania. We can do this. We need somebody in sales, in making partnership, an international person, etc., etc. So I come back from the UK. Nobody understood why, but I wanted to work for Rav. So I wanted to work for this project in particular. So it was like good work conditions, a very good employer branding, and the fact that I wanted to work for this company. Well, it's an interesting story. So I worked in the UK in my early years, and then I left the Silicon Valley in my 40s, and in both this a broad experience, I had the chance to stay there. Obviously, I'm here, so I came back, and everybody asked me why. And usually it was work-related, so I liked the projects that I had and I have here in the country. And the fact that somehow I liked my home and my city. I like Bucharest, for example. And although I think it's not perfect here, it depends on us to make it better. I know it sounds very, it's not necessarily patriotism. It's more like, here are my friends, here are my ex-colleagues from university. It's an environment that for me, it's more suitable than living more or less alone in a foreign country. Yes, I have, but not at the time. Right now, my business is SeedBlink, so at the end of my right now in my let's say senior years of career, I have my own business, and yes, I am an entrepreneurial type, because I've started a lot of companies from 2 or 4 people to hundreds of people, but when it becomes too big, I don't like it anymore, because I don't know everybody by name, and I don't like it. It's like, is working for us? Yes, it's for us. I have no idea. So I don't like this. I don't like this corporate part too much. SeedBlink is a tech company, and more it's a tech company. It's organized the same as a tech company. It's a platform, and although the discussion is not about SeedBlink, what we are doing right now, we're adding products, as in software products, to this platform. For example, we are working on an equity management tool, and this tool that will be part of the SeedBlink family of products, which is software. And also, right now we have around 10-12 programmers. So there are the vast majority of our stuff, let's say. So it's software, and it's about technology. We have sprints, we have demos, so it's technology. It's not finance, and the company is organized as a technology company. So I don't miss that part because it's here. We had, and I said we because after we sold RAV to Microsoft, a bunch of us stayed here in Bucharest, especially to create an ecosystem for startups, and that was 2003, so 20 years ago. And we had a program at that point. I don't remember the name. Especially designed to find startups and to finance them and to work with them to make. So it was early stage of mentoring and financing. We haven't had a lot of success because it wasn't the time, so we were way before times. So we closed the program after 1 year. So that was my first encounter with this concept of accelerator mentorships, if you want. But then after I came back from Silicon Valley, and I had like a lot of experience in making a company from zero to a very important international company, and more important in international sales and business development, because that was something and still is something that is, as a knowledge, is very important. A lot of startups, they came to me for mentorship. So it was, I think, like 10 years ago when I started giving advice, working with different startups, from my ex-employees that they have startup, or my ex or colleagues or whatever that started something on their own. So that was my first encounter with the startups. And then in around 7 years ago, I was even more involved because we started, as a team, we were a couple of people, raising a fund, especially for startups. So I was more and more dragged into the startup environment, technology startup environment. That's a difference, because I want to do something that I'm good at, that I know about. If you ask me about a startup in biotech, I can give some very high-level advice, but I'm not into that because I don't have experience. In 2003, no, it was zero. But even the startup environment was very, not a startup, the technology, everything, legislation, no incentives, nothing. So that wasn't a good environment to start the program to help companies. But later, in 2016, even earlier, the ecosystem was there, and there are a lot of people in this industry that have done a lot of things for the startup industry. And I want to mention here the How to Web, for example, How to Web program that Bogdan Iordache started here, and it's I think it's for a long time. And so there, and also a lot of accelerators and incubators and programs that probably started, I don't know when they started, but in 14, 15, when I get into this, there was an ecosystem. What is very interesting that the ecosystem from that point, some 10 years, grew a lot. There were a lot of factors that contributed to that, but it grew a lot. It was there are people that put some seeds earlier. My first investments were in startup made by my ex team members, in which I had a lot of confidence, and it was like, family and friends moment for them. But what attracted me to this is exactly why I have, at the end of the day, come back from UK and from Silicon Valley. The fact that I can assist. I am willing to listen and learn, and and sometimes I'm like, oh God, I love my job, because I see a lot of startups, a lot of founders, a lot of problems solved, and it's brilliant to be able to watch technology in movement, because it's something like, yeah, there is this problem exists, like it's a problem for the end of from the I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, somebody's solving it. So it's a very nice job to have, to see how very clever people start solving problems, and to see how technology evolves from, imagine, like internet to ChatGPT right now. So it's a huge. That's why I'm into this, because I love watching people solving problems, and if I can help, I do. If you are talking about the fund that we wanted to raise, so that's this 2015, 2016. The funds available weren't so, and still there aren't so much. So funds available for technology startups here in Romania are not so much, especially in early stages, meaning pre-seed, seed, late seed, Series A. I still think there is a lack of funding, a big lack of funding. But still, it's much better than 10 years ago, like in 14. So no, the funds weren't available. It's very hard to find money. Was very hard. It's the same actually, to find money for your startup. The pool of companies, this is a chicken and egg situation, because if you don't have funds available for startups won't be started. If you have funding and you say, okay, I have an idea, I know where to get money, I will get money, let's do it, then you have startups. So there are companies, and good companies, and they were good companies, not so many as we can generate here in Romania, in my opinion. And the problem, again, in my opinion, is the lack of funding, as in a lot of funding, not very picky funding. On SeedBlink, we don't serve only Romania. We serve Europe. Right now, for example, we have 50-50 startups and the number of angels investors in our network from Romania and outside Romania. What I can say is that the number of companies that are seeking funding is growing, and there are a lot of technology startups in Romania in different stages. And I had the privilege to see startups that 2 years ago were in raising a seed fund, and right now they are at 3-4 times evaluation, raising very good money for Series A or Series B. So there is also evolution. There are companies that are going down because the economic situation as it is right now is not very favorable for growth. However, this is something that is changing, in my opinion. Even the economics are looking better than last year, and also companies are more confident that they can meet their targets. So on SeedBlink we see growth. We see a lot of companies seeking funding. We see a lot of companies seeking funding with angels, with VC back, with VC on the table. So it's a lot of there are a lot of synergies in the industry. For me, the interesting part was the combination between founding finance, I wanted to say, and technology. So that was for me exactly what I wanted to do, because in the last 10 years I've been in this environment, startups, technology, and what I know to do best is technology. So that was for me a perfect fit. And I was able to start a company from scratch in my own terms, let's say, which was again a plus. And also the team that the 4 of us that have started this project was a match and another plus for me. So these were my motivations to move forward. Now, on the commercial side or business side, the fact that the regulation, the European regulation, crowdfunding regulation, was approved and was to be implemented across Europe was an opportunity. The fact that is nothing in Romania in terms of crowdfunding or co-investment platform was an opportunity. The fact that regionally there is not such a platform was an opportunity. So this was again a plus in starting a business that won't be a local one but an European one. So the criteria for my criteria were met, and it is a fun journey. It was from the beginning, and it is a fun journey to have. A lot of people with a lot of experience, and a lot of young people in the team with a lot of energy. Very nice and rounded team, as I said, and I'm not referring only on the founders, but the whole team is amazing. I think it's one of the best I've ever made, if not the best, right now. We were a lot, because the speciality I've took was designed for women, and actually I think we are more women than boys in my years, which wasn't very pleasant at that point. But my specialty was designed for what design. It was more suitable for women, so there are a lot of women. And to tell you the truth, due to the communist era, where women had to work alongside men, it wasn't a lot of discrimination. So we had to work, and because we had to work, all the trades were available to everybody. It was just a matter of wanting to do something or something else. So if you wanted to be an engineer, there were specialties, how to say, more suitable for women. And I know this is nothing, is perceived negatively right now, as in you can do whatever you want. That's true. But in this field was optics, computers, was supposed to be more feminine, whereas that's true in how to say it in TCM in Romania, which is in English hard machinery. There were 1 or 2 girls, but I don't think that were 1 or 2 girls because somebody didn't allow them to go there, but because it wasn't appealing to go to see a lot of hard machinery. So in my experience, a lot of girls were in Polytechnic at that point. That's a good question, and in this part I would say that there are not so many female founders, in technology at least. I think there are less than 2%, 3%, so it's a very, very low number in technology. Over the, sorry?
It still is.
It still is, but I don't think it's something to do with technology itself. It's something to do with the culture that we are, and with a culture and education. Because, for example, in high school, we don't teach in high school entrepreneurship, or it's not necessarily something that you tell your girl, your daughter, you have to have your own company. You tell her, Mom, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to, I don't know, but you don't encourage them to be an entrepreneurial type. But in the same direction, the boys are exposed again to the same education. So probably the difference is that the boys are more aggressive by nature and women are more conservative by nature. And probably that's why they are not going full speed ahead, because probably they are a little bit afraid. And that's why I think that education in early stages meaning high school, and probably even earlier, would help everybody, but especially girls, to see there is nothing to be afraid of. And you have to, if you have an idea, you have to go with it and run with it. So indeed, is not at this point the vast majority in technology there are male entrepreneurs. But it's not only in Romania. It's from what I'm seeing on SeedBlink, it's European-like. So I won't say Romania is like this. This is the state in all Europe, according to what we are seeing on SeedBlink. But here in our country, because I have a boy, so and he's in high school, I can tell you that they are not very well. They don't teach in any way entrepreneurship. So girls are more prone not to do something because they will be afraid, in my opinion. Now, there are initiatives everywhere, and there are, even on a government level, there are initiatives to push women in entrepreneurship. You can be a technology entrepreneur, not necessarily being a programmer, and this is something that somebody would have to tell them. An entrepreneur is not necessarily somebody that do something. It's somebody that has an idea and gather a team to make something happen. And this is something that females are more good at building teams, keeping them together, keeping them motivated, and they should know that. Again, it's something that we should work on. This, I think, is better because there is a generation, my generation and a little bit behind my generation, that are in their over 40s, let's say, 50s, even 60s, that made money out of work, out of entrepreneurial activities, and they have the education in place in order to invest in other class of assets than treasury bonds and I don't know, stock exchange, on the stock exchange. So there is, although it's not half or it's better than entrepreneurial. I don't know, probably 30%, something like that, on our platform. We are in a growth mode. In Romania, definitely it's something else. The founders, for example, so there are startups. There are very good startups, there are average startups, and obviously just an idea startup that will die there, but at least they are trying, and that's very good. Founders are more educated, and although there are a lot of steps to be done, especially in the financing part, how to work with financing rounds, etc., etc. And this SeedBlink is a good, and it's not because I'm there, but it's a good starting point to learn about how to get and how to do a financing round. What do you need? What are the next steps, etc., etc. But coming back, founders are more educated. Founders are more motivated to succeed because they have seen some successes in the country, and they want to do it as well. So from this, it's a very big difference. Compared to Europe, I think we are behind, obviously, because we lack a lot of years, but we are catching up. Still, it's a lot of room for improvement in Romania versus what happens in Europe. And when I say Europe, I'm referring not necessarily to. Actually, no. I was about to say not necessarily to Bulgaria, Greece, so southern Europe, but Bulgaria, it's in a good place from the startup perspective. Greece more from the investment perspective, but also they have very good startups. So I won't disregard them in any way. So indeed, it's an ecosystem here in Central and Eastern Europe that it's growing, and it's going to catch up the western part of Europe and the northern part, which is quite developed, I would say. But everything, it's about finance. If you have financing, then you can move your plans. If not, you'll die. And also, the economics as it is right now, they are better than they were last year, but we are not on the boom. We are still on a flat. So everybody's struggling with on the business side. On the investment part, I think Romania has made huge steps. And this is, again, an education that we have to do across the industry. And we are part of it, and we should do this education. There are other programs that do the same. tech angels, for example, even our VC, local VCs, they are doing the same. So there are steps made into getting more people into getting other type of asset class, like shares in a private company, technology private company, or even angels in a private company. That's true. In Europe, in Europe we are kind of the same in what regards investments. They are not very advanced. They are more educated, but again, it's the fact that they have had access to some type of education in financing and finance, and how to make your money work for you longer than we have had here in Romania. But the real where it's different and it's, let's say, better from the investment perspective in the US and in the UK. Europe, it's more or less the same at this point. No. They are thinking globally, and even faster than they should. So they are very ambitious. I think that what we should work more on is, as I said, the education in what regards funding. As in, you need funding, what you need in order to get funded, when to discuss if VCs, what are the VCs that are suitable for you, when to go to a VC. For example, sometimes you see companies waiting until the last minute, and it takes like 6 to 9 months to actually get funded. And then on the other hand, have not so realistic expectation in what regards the evaluation. So there are some some things to be fine-tuned in this fundraising process and education. In Romania, obviously, I think there will be two avenues, let's say. On one hand, startups that are looking up as to UiPath or Floix or Druid or other companies that are making a very huge growth in a short period of time. So there will be some outliners, definitely, and this will also encourage other youngsters, or not necessarily youngsters, because to make a short stop, actually the successful companies are not made by a youngster, but the people in their 40s that they have some experience and they want to apply it. So, but that's a different topic. But so it will be a more okay, let's try it, because obviously we can do it. Let's try it. Funds, although are scarce, are available it's a source available in much more degree than it was like 10 years ago, and with all this money Union and Europe are pouring on us, maybe this will help as well. So my take is that there will be more startups started and also funded, and also on the other hand, the startups that are now in seed or late seed, some of them will be like unicorns. It will, although we are not officially in recession, and we see a glimpse of hope in terms of business economics, I think that you, as a startup, you have to be prepared in terms of cash for half a year, 1 year and a half, 2 years, so 18 to 24 months, which is very hard for startups in technology, because for example, in terms of in order to get funded, you have to show traction and you have to show growth. In order to show growth, you have to invest, and you are always on minus, below the line. Obviously, if you invest more, your growth will be higher and you have better chances to get financed. However, right now in this economic type of situation as we are now, you have to be very careful on your costs and on your cash flow. So my advice is pay attention to the cash flow and you cannot be cash flow positive, but to have money enough to reach at least 1.5 years from now, better too. That's my advice, and it's very hard to fulfill it, as I said, because you have to show traction, and it's complicated. Now, in terms of fundraising, the majority of the companies we see right now, they are going for a bridge round, meaning that they are not for a price round, because the evaluation are very low right now. And it's not the problem that the evaluation are low, it's the problem that last year or 2 years ago you had a big evaluation, because the times were like, okay, let's pour money, everybody's happy, and you had a very big evaluation. And right now you tend to have a down round, which is bad for your next round. So you have to somehow take a bridge which is not priced for your money to last 2 years, in order to be able to get a round which is slightly bigger or at least flat with the one that you have had in 21 or 19, where everybody was, yoo-hoo, let's pour some money on this. So that's the problem. And it is a problem, and it is a struggle for founders right now, especially in technology, to keep a balance. I have to live for 1.5 years, 2 years, and I don't want to get another round which is lower than a down round than I had previously. So the advice would be to be realistic, to keep the cost as low as possible and as tight as possible, and to generate as much revenue as you can. Because at the end of the day, you get financed if you have revenue and you show that you are going in the right direction in terms of revenue or clients generated by your business. So it's simple.